So our town report dedication is for Mr. Richard Noel, who just snuck around the back there and hid. The plaque reads as follows. Richard J. Noel is the firstborn of 9 children, originally brought up in Connecticut. He moved to Vermont in the 1960s and worked on farms in the Highgate Swanton area and as a parts man for a couple of businesses before purchasing a farm of his own. He and his wife Maggie farmed the Noel Dairy Farm on the Gore Road for over 30 years. They have 3 children, Eric, who passed away on 12/18/2018, Sarah and Norbert, as well as 6 grandchildren. Richard enjoys tinkering in his shop, working on a variety of different projects. He has a great love for old cars and trucks, antique tractors, horses, history, and genealogy. Over the years, Richard has served the Highgate community in a multitude of ways, and we are very grateful. He has served on the Select Board, the Planning Commission, the Village Core Master Plan Committee, Northwest Regional Planning and Transportation Advisory Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment, as a Town Service Officer, Solid Waste Management Committee, Justice of the Peace, Lister, and Grand Juror. I don't know if you missed any, Richard. Yeah. We could put that up for you if you'd like. Richard was instrumental in keeping the Macy Road Bridge B25 project moving forward to completion in the fall of 2019. And I have to say Richard was very instrumental in that. Richard kept after the state to make sure that we got a new bridge. And Richard, bridge is beautiful. Richard has spent countless hours researching information and equipment, the feasibility of projects, and the history of the town of Highgate. Richard takes a common sense approach and has a great passion for improving the community. He always seems to rise to any of the challenges he is presented with, and nothing keeps him down, no matter what the obstacle is he faces. His knowledge and wisdom on the plethora of subjects has been greatly appreciated by the town. Thank you very much, Richard. We also have someone else that we'd like to speak about today. We lost a valued member of our community, Mr. David Roddy, through a tragic accident. Our thoughts and prayers have always been with his family and his wife, Georgette. We'd like to say, we're with you. He's greatly missed, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Nicely done, Chair. Visit the Highgate Volunteer Fire Department table for information on free smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors for your home. State representatives updates from Franklin 5 reps, Sharon Vigard and Lisa Hango. Are they going to come up now? Is that what we want now? Either one first to flip a coin. Yes.
I'll make a motion to allow them to speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Didn't take me long to screw up, did it?
It's okay. Hi, I'm Lisa Hango. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and to serve you in the Vermont House of Representatives. We've been in Montpelier now for 8 weeks, and during that time, we've seen a number of bills that have had a great impact on all Vermonters, so I'd like to update you briefly on their status. My committee is the General Housing and Military Affairs Committee, which deals with some really complex subjects and varied subjects. We're working on several bills right now with an eye towards passing them to the Senate by crossover, which is on March 13th. These are bills that we're still taking testimony and welcome input on. So if anyone would like to comment on any of these bills or others that you might see on our website, I do have business cards with me, which I'll leave on the table, and my email address is there. Also, you may contact the Sergeant at Arms at the State House, and they can get a message to us immediately with your concerns. So some of the bills we're working on in my committee are, one of them is an omnibus alcohol bill that would modernize laws pertaining to the manufacturing, sales, tasting, and festivals of beer, wine, and spirits. It's currently unnumbered, which really means it's a work in progress by my committee. So if there's anything you'd like to see in that, please feel free to voice your concerns. Another is a homeless bill of rights that would create a new protected class of people who could not be discriminated against because of their housing status. This bill is H401. Another bill defining recovery residences, which are formally known as sober houses for people in recovery from substance misuse disorder, which is very prevalent in our community. That bill has gone on to House Human Services Committee, and its number is H783. There's a joint resolution apologizing for the eugenics movement of the early 20th century that sought to eliminate procreation of folks who were thought to be Abenaki, French Canadian, or mixed race heritage, or also deemed to be physically or mentally disabled. We've taken a lot of very emotional testimony on this resolution. It's not a bill, on this resolution, and it's been difficult to listen to, but very informative, and the resolution that we've come up with so far seems to be going in a good place for this. If you have questions about it, please feel free to ask me about it. And that is JRH7, the number on that one. We also have a rental housing safety and rehabilitation bill that would include a registry of all rental housing stock in Vermont, and we have the second oldest housing stock in the nation, so it really does need to be rehabilitated, and the ability of the Department of Fire Safety to conduct all inspections of residential rental properties and commercial properties. This bill is number H739. We've taken a lot of testimony. It's gone through a number of different changes, and I think anyone who is a landlord or a tenant should be looking at the contents of this bill to see if there are things in it that concern you. This is just a sampling of legislation that my committee is working on. If you have any specific questions, I would be more than happy to speak with you either later on today, but we will have to leave early to get to Franklin to another town meeting, or through email, phone calls. We would be happy to speak with you on any of our bills. So some of the other legislation that I'd like to talk about are bills that have been addressed by the General Assembly already this session, and there have been a number of them, and very important pieces of legislation that we should be paying a lot of attention to. H107 is the paid family leave bill. It was vetoed by the governor, and the veto was sustained by the General Assembly, and instead the governor's voluntary family leave program, which was negotiated with the state employees union, is out for bid to become part of their compensation package, and it will later be open to other Vermonters. So this is really a work in progress right now, but there are certainly places that I could direct you if you wanted to read more about it. Another set of bills that passed through the General Assembly are H 926, the Act 250 Reform Bill, and H 688, the Global Warming Solutions Act. Both of these are now in the Senate Natural Resources Committee. These bills could have a great impact on transportation, housing, and recreation, as well as land development. So it bears watching how they evolve in that committee. Senator Corey Parent, who represents you, is on that committee and would be able to take your questions and comments on the progress of this bill. So please keep an eye on how that's going. S23, which raised the minimum wage, passed on a veto override by 1 vote. The state minimum wage will now be $11.75 in 2021 and $12.55 in 2022. S54, which Representative Fagard will talk a little bit more about, passed the House, and it's the Tax and Regulate Recreational Cannabis Bill. It passed the House and now will go on to a committee of conference to hammer out the details. We're seeking comment from constituents on this, and Sharn will tell you how to go about that, because there are really varying views on whether this is going to be beneficial or not to the state. Unfortunately, to me, it doesn't look like we'll stand to make enough money from retail sales to cover the cost of educating and protecting Vermonters from the potential consequences of substance misuse that come with this. And if you recall, in 2018, the legislature voted to legalize the personal possession and use of cannabis. So that's where this is coming from. Briefly, some other concerns that I have been working on your behalf include Lyme disease statutes, military pension tax exemptions, safety in work zones with regard to speeding and texting, and the condition of our roads. In particular, the lack of a reduced speed zone at exit 18 northbound on I-89 in Georgia immediately following that culvert failure was of great concern to me. It took 3 weeks of advocacy with the help of one of my other constituents, and I was able to get that zone posted at 55 miles per hour for the safety of all of us who commute south of Franklin County. And specifically in Highgate, I've also had conversations with the Secretary of the Agency of Transportation about the viability of a Highgate Welcome Center on I-89, the ongoing talks about the airport expansion, and with VTrans representatives about the Macy Road slide. These discussions are all ongoing, and I'll continue to keep them on my radar, and if there are others, I will be meeting with the state engineer later in April to talk about the condition of our roads, so please feel free to voice your concerns to me. Housing and community development also remain a great concern for Representative Fagard and myself, and even though my committee deals with housing, it's not always the type of concerns that we here in Northern Franklin County are concerned with. So I do want to say that we don't always have a choice of what we're discussing in our committees or what we're even voting on, and that makes it a little bit frustrating, but please don't feel like you don't have a voice. 2 of our major pieces of legislation either failed by 1 vote or passed by 1 vote in the House. So it really is true that every voice is heard. So please don't feel like you can't bring a concern up to us, because we're more than happy to take up your concerns for you. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I will turn it over to Representative Fagard. I'm also going to hand around this paper. If you don't already receive our email updates and you would like to, please sign up on this and I'll collect it at the end. Thank you.
Good morning. I was going to start off about talking about Fire Safe 802 and free smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, but I learned Fire Safe 802, learned how to do that from the Highgate Fire Department. So you guys already know about that. The S54, the bill that aims to allow the sale of cannabis in the state with fees and taxes that are supposed to support the increases in required law enforcement activity in places where growing or processing or selling happens, as well as it's supposed to fund after-school prevention programs, is something that I really want to hear from people about. And there is a box that I turned over, and I'm not sure where it is now. Oh, over there? Okay, so over there is a cardboard box that is labeled and a bunch of survey forms that if you would fill out. If you've already given me your feedback via email, you don't need to do it again. I'm keeping a tally, and I'm asking for names, so I'm sure that I'm not double counting anybody. I feel like it's important to have a large enough number of responses because I think I'm the only person in the House who's actually doing direct representation on this, where I'm like, hey, I've got a tally, and I've heard from 76 people so far from my district. I would love to have heard from at least 200, so that I can share with the people that I work with that this is what my district wants. And the lobbyists don't know what to say when they come to me, because I'm like, I don't care what you say. I'm just doing direct representation on this one because it's messy. There are goals, and it's in the Senate right now, and they will change it. And so the final bill, when it comes back, I will have to study and understand it better, but I can answer questions about what it looks like as it was voted out of the House if people have those questions. There are some lovely things that have come out of my committee, and I hope that the Senate doesn't change them too much, though they can't seem to resist sometimes, even if they just change a word like that to which. They always have to change something. One of them's pretty exciting. At this time, if you have your land in the use value appraisal system, which we call current use, if you have more than one dwelling, you have to take 2 acres per dwelling out of current use. This change will allow multiple dwellings within a 2-acre block to be within a single 2-acre area. So if somebody's kid wants to stay and farm, or you want to have a guest house or something like that, you're going to do agritourism, you want to do guest house so people can come to stay and pay. This will make, oops, that makes noise. This will allow more acreage to remain in current use. It will not undermine local zoning. It has nothing to do with zoning. It's only current use. And the other, that was H417. The next one, H562, will allow solar arrays that are up to 1/10 of an acre on current use property. So only one per property that's in current use. It'll allow it to remain in current use. And that's 562. H269 provides the same limited liability protection for agritourism that is enjoyed currently by the ski industry, outdoor recreation, and equine. So it would provide a little bit of protection for agritourism. So when you invite the public to come, breakfast on the farm or whatever, and it's strictly inherent risk. It doesn't go to the next level, which would be immunity from neglect. Adequate, that's 269, and H254 clarifies some issues with adequate livestock for shelter. This is something that came forth because of two sides. On one side, you have people who don't know anything about livestock driving down the road and thinking that a horse is being terribly neglected because it's outside in the snow. And we need to make sure that those people don't, that there are clear enough explanations in statute to protect anybody who's taking care of their livestock. And at the same time, there are cases of neglect and abuse, and to have clear enough definitions so that when action does need to be taken, there's a foundation in statute for them to do that. And that's the only sad thing I had to ever look at in my committee, because pictures of skinny horses or cows that have had a chain cut all the way down into their spine, it's way better than eugenics. Not great though, but anyway, this will not have any impact on currently accepted farming practices regarding livestock. There's one bill that ended up being a lot more of a lightning rod than I expected, and that's H 673, which is the tree warden bill. It was initiated because the emerald ash borer is in Vermont, and we expect to have the Asian lanternfly come up here pretty soon. And we need to have some consistency also. There was a farm on the other side of the Green Mountains where their farm property went across town lines, and they cleared brush and trees from the road that was shading out their cropland. And one town had no problem with it, but the other town had some people with some mansions that didn't like the scrubby look, and the town of Ferrisburg is suing a farm for over $1 million because they cut down a bunch of saplings. So we wanted to clear that up, but we also want to make sure that landowners, that things are clearly defined, that landowners know that that's their property, and that the definition of public trees are, municipal trees that were planted by the municipality or designated through a due process as being municipal trees because of a quality they possess, whether it's like the most amazing oak tree or something like that. But there's a process so that farmers aren't getting sued for ridiculous reasons. If anybody has questions about any of it, please contact me. I will say that in my second year, I have become more and more aware of how valuable the minority party is. What I see not as being a partisan thing, but as a human nature thing, is that when bills come forth from one party, they have an attachment to that, and they're not as willing to tear it apart as it should be, so that when the minority party has no attachment to that bill, they're willing to come forth and they're willing to just pick it apart. And if it passes, hopefully it's a much better bill. And if it doesn't, well, then it wasn't meant to. And that's been a really interesting and sometimes very frustrating experience, because sometimes we see bills come to the floor that shouldn't have been brought to the floor. And it makes me really grumpy. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you both. The legal voters of the town of Highgate, Vermont are hereby notified, and warned to meet at the Highgate Elementary School in the town of Highgate on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, between the hours of 7 o'clock in the forenoon, 7 a.m., at which time the polls will open, and 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 p.m., at which time the polls will close, to vote by Australian ballot upon the following articles of business. Article 1, to elect the following town officers. 1, a town moderator for ensuing year. 2, 1 select board member for a term of 2 years. Number 3, 1 select board member for the term of 3 years. Number 4, 1 lister for the term of 3 years. Number 5, 1 trustee of trust funds for a term of 3 years. Number 6, 1 library trustee for the term of 5 years. Number 7, 1 cemetery commissioner for the term of 5 years. Could I have a motion, please? Appreciate makes a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The legally qualified voters of the town of Highgate, Vermont are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Highgate Elementary School Gymnasium on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 at 10 a.m. to transact the following business. Article 2, to receive and act on the reports of the town officers for the past year. We have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second? Discussion. We're ready to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Article 3, shall the voters of the town of Highgate set the final date of payment for FY 2020-2021 property taxes to be Friday, October 30th, 2020, with payments to be received in the town office by 4:30 p.m. We have a motion, please. Second? Scott Martin. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Article 4. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $7,424 for home health services provided by the Franklin County Home Health Agency, Inc.? We have a motion, please. A second? We need discussion. We have Ty in the back.
I was wondering, do we have a representative from Home Health to do that?
We do.
I am Liza Comiskey, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the Hospice Volunteer Coordinator at Franklin County Home Health. Franklin County Home Health is a 501c3 that has been serving the community since 1969. We provide a comprehensive home health services, hospice, long-term care, and wellness services. Our agency depends on the money that we receive annually from the 15 towns and cities that we serve across the county, and this funding helps to subsidize the cost of care to our patients who are either uninsured or underinsured. While 79% of our revenue last year came from Medicaid and Medicare, we were able to provide over $170,000 in free and subsidized care to those who needed it most. Last year, our staff provided 2,377 home visits and to 90 members of the Highgate community. Franklin County Home Health is committed to providing medically necessary home care services to all those who need it, regardless of their ability to pay. Yet without the yearly support of our town appropriations and our donor gifts, our ability to provide this care could be adversely affected. I'm here today to ask you to support, and as a voter of Highgate, I will be supporting it, but to ask you to support our request for $7,423 from the town for the upcoming fiscal year. This is the same amount that we have requested for the past 3 years, and this is based upon census. So every town is asked for an amount, and it's based upon the population of each town. So by voting yes, if you choose to vote yes for Franklin County Home Health's appropriation funding, you're voting for our community and for the health and wellness of those who live here. So it's recognizing that all who live here, including those who cannot afford our services, can access high quality care at any stage of their life when they want it and when they need it and at home. Thank you. I shorted myself $1. $7,000, $424 today and today only for you guys, $1 more. I'll throw in the dollar.
We have any other questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 6, shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize the adoption Oh, I apologize, Article 5. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate amend the start time for town meeting beginning in March 2021 to 9 a.m.? We have a motion, please. A motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Noel in the back.
Why?
The question's being asked, why do you want to change the time?
Richard?
The reason that we've asked for this is we've had various people contact us and request that change so that we wouldn't run into the lunch hour, and that perhaps people could be able to take a half a day off as opposed to a full day off, and would allow for hopefully more participation.
Right up front, please.
How does it affect the farmers?
I would ask that question of the crowd. How would a change to 9 o'clock affect your ability to come to town meeting? Scott Bissett, I know I saw you in here. Would it make it more difficult? Anyone else in here that is a...
I'll be late. I'll be late if it's at 9 o'clock.
Okay,
I agree with Scott, and make it more difficult.
okay.
Anyone else? Yeah, Henry, up front, please.
Is this as much of an issue because we don't have a school anymore?
Yes, not having the school budget presented at town meeting does make a difference.
Do you have any other questions? Mr. Rouse.
I'd just like to say, I think it's a great idea. It's been long overdue. Start earlier, because we also, when we had the school budget in the morning, we were always running into lunchtime. So now without it, we can probably be done around noon-ish.
Anyone else? We're ready to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. All right, let's do hands. In favor? Please. Opposed? Please raise your hands. By a vote of 51 to 27, the article passes. Article 6. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize the adoption of a tax stabilization plan? Motion, please. Do we have a second? Mr. Benny. Discussion? The question is, what is it?
So the tax stabilization program would be a way to give some relief to, and I'll read the state law, allows the town through the select board to enter into contracts with owners, lessees, bailees, or operators of agricultural, forest land, industrial, or commercial, real and personal property for the purpose of fixing and maintaining the valuation of such property in the grand list, fixing and maintaining the rate or rates of tax applicable to such property, fixing the amount in money which shall be paid as an annual tax upon such property, or fixing the tax applicable to such property at a percentage of the annual tax. What its main purpose for us is to help with commercial development. And why we think that's important is because that would increase your grand list. When you increase the grand list, your property taxes would go down, or at least the burden would be shared with commercial property. It gives us a benefit to provide to a organization to come to the town of Highgate. It would allow for new jobs to come to Highgate, and there's a feeling that with more jobs, a little more commercial development, we could both increase the services that the town provides and that we could provide good jobs so people could afford to live in Highgate. I do have copies of the policy and the plan that are available if anyone would like to look at them.
Do you have any other questions? Mr. McAllister.
What's the cost of this to the taxpayer?
The cost to the taxpayers, there isn't one per se, but having said that, if you say you wanted a grocery store or another brick factory to come into the town, we would suggest there are a number of criteria that these businesses have to give to the town as guarantees. But you could have a 5-year tax stabilization agreement that the first year they'd be taxed at 10% of their assessed value. Second year would be taxed at 20%, third year at 40%. So the grand list is not up to full valuation of the property. So you would be losing out on some potential tax money, but it's in hopes that you would gain the full value of that property in taxes, plus provide employment and development.
Henry up front, please, and then I'll come to you, Ty.
So all the criteria is within this policy? I guess I agree that we need to bring more business in. My concern is I'm voting on something that I don't know what I'm voting on. So I think there needs to be a lot more information given to us so that we can say, yeah, this is a good idea, or maybe we should, if we can, tweak it. Again, I'm all for trying to bring more business into this town. But I prefer to vote on something that I understand.
I can understand that perfectly. This was brought up at various planning meetings and at the select board meetings. But just as a show of hands, how many people feel that they'd like more information? Okay. All right. So then, at that point, my suggestion would be to vote no for this article and allow it, or table it, and allow us to give you more information.
Chris? Oh, sorry, Ty, go ahead, Ty, sorry, Chris.
Do we have current business and not current business? Is there currently businesses pursuing this with the town of Highgate that would like to see this and have contacted us? That would, if we table it today, would that be detrimental to current agreements?
No, I can tell you that with the airport expansion, we have been approached by a individual who would like to develop his former sand pit into 7 warehouse lots to provide for coverage for the expanded airport. But we are not in a legal agreement with them, and we haven't offered them anything. It was just one of the incentives that we could do for commercial development. We also, the same person has an interest in the Jedware property and would be and is pursuing the cleanup of that property as a potential joint savings for the town.
Mr. Yates?
So my question ties in perfectly with Ty's. If we table this issue now and come back to it in 12 months, are we going to affect any future businesses in that 12-month period? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
It's certainly possible, but we could also arrange to have a special town meeting if that were the case. So if that problem arose, there was somebody that was willing to go forward immediately, we would certainly ask the voters to come back once we have given them more education about that and ask again.
Yes, sir.
I know there was a meeting on the airport expansion. I wasn't able to make it.
Use mic, please, folks.
I know there was a meeting on the airport expansion. Was there any information to suggest a completion time?
Well, the state's promised us a completion time several times, and it keeps moving. The problem, of course, is money. The airport infrastructure in the state's budget is very minimal considering the actual overall transportation budget. But we have been given assurances that that is a project that's going forward. We also, you see the new fence that they've put up to keep the debris off the runways, and they are pursuing with the town of Highgate's assistance the idea of perhaps getting water and maybe sewage up to the airport so that that could support the growth. So those studies are happening now, and we'd welcome anyone's input. That could be a large boon for the town of Highgate, but we'd like the townspeople to be involved because it's going to be your town.
Mr. Rouse?
So I'll probably say this a little messed up, but we're looking at a 1% increase, correct? About. So why don't we just tax the properties commercial developers are buying at the rate it's taxed at the present purchase price, and then go up 10% of the new value, then 30% of the new value, and do it over 5 years without raising the town's taxes? You won't need that 1% because you're already getting the tax dollars from that property as it was. And just give them a break on the new value up to the 5 years.
So, first of all, the taxes are proposed to go up, 26 cents for every $1,000 of value. So it's extremely little. It's 0.003 increase of our tax rate. Secondly, we could do that, tax at the current rate and keep going up, but it's not an incentive to come to Highgate versus another town.
I think that's the point of this tax stabilization policy. On page 2, it tells you it's more of an incentive for businesses to come here. The first year, they only pay 10% of their tax value, and then it goes up to their total 100% of their tax value after year 6. So it's an incentive for businesses to come here.
Mr. Yates up front.
Make a motion to table this for 12 months, or unless a business approaches the town and it would benefit the town to hold it town-wide.
So the motion's been made to table this for now, for 6 months. Is that what you said?
I said 12.
12 months, sorry, unless something, business approaches the town and it warrants a special town meeting. We have a second? We're going to have discussion on that. So we got a second on his motion?
Second.
Discussion on his motion. Mr. Rangel.
I'd like to have an education package along with that motion, I guess.
Could modify the motion to include holding 3 informational sessions at regular select board meetings. So that way there, people know they want to get information on this, where to go find it.
So the motion on the floor is to table this for 12 months, unless the business approaches the town sooner, at which point it would be a minimum of 3 informational meetings before the town meeting, before the vote is made on this article. We have a second to that, Mr. Noel?
I'm not a second. Discussion.
You have more discussion, sorry.
I believe we should go ahead and establish this tax stabilization for the reason that if you could use that, the town could use it, the select board could use it to entice people to come in. You don't have to entice them with promises and wishes. You entice them with facts and figures. If we delay it, okay, here's Jamestown, well, the town's got to hold on and see if we can work with you, sir, or me. I believe we should put it into it. It was done in the past, but we didn't really have policies. When I was on the board, that's how we got strict factory into the society. There wasn't tax stabilization program done yet. If we delay it, the vote, it's also costly to have another vote. I think it's better to do it, get it established, and then we work with some people that are interested in coming highly. We have some that's already been mentioned down at the old Jaguar thing. Possibilities around the airport, there's possibilities right here in the center of town. Without these tools to be able to entice and work with companies to come into town, you're going to stagnate. This is where you are right now, you're stagnating. You're not going anywhere.
Do I need to vote on it and see what the outcome is of the vote?
Article's been moved, so the article on the floor is to table this for 12 months, unless the business approaches, with no less than 3 informational meetings before a special town vote would be passed. That's what we're voting on. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The noes have it. Back to the original article. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize the adoption of a tax stabilization plan? We've already had a motion and a second. Discussion? Ready? Mr. Chevalier?
So this means that basically a new business coming in would be given tax favored status over all the existing businesses in the town. In other words, the existing businesses would be paying their regular tax based on the tax rate that everybody else pays. But somebody new coming in would pay less for up to 5 years. Is that correct?
No, actually, in the Vermont law that I read earlier, fixing and maintaining the valuation of such property in the grand list. So if, I'm squeaking here. So if you were to repair your property or add an addition as an existing business, I believe you would fall underneath the tax stabilization policy according to the Vermont state law.
I don't know what that means.
And that means that your business, as an existing business, would have the opportunity to participate in a tax stabilization plan if that were to go forward. Right, if you were fixing and maintaining the valuation of such property.
So with no future plans for more employment or anything like that, just if you just update your facilities?
So it reads in our policy, if this should pass, it shall be town policy that tax stabilization is an economic development incentive administered with prudence, but also with the flexibility necessary to achieve the joint development goals of the applicant and the town. Tax stabilization agreement shall be negotiated on a case-by-case basis, unconstrained by precedent. The select board reserves the right to waive or modify these guidelines when they determine that the public interest and purpose of this policy are best served.
Okay, I got it.
And a note to that is that this only would reduce the municipal portion of the taxes. So the education tax would remain the same. It would only reduce the municipal part of the tax.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Mr. Ringel?
Are all 5 members of the board well-versed and in agreement to this?
Yes, I am.
I would say yes. We accepted the proposal from the Planning Commission in order to present it here.
Yes. Yes.
Any other discussion? Aye, the back, please.
So if this passes today, what's the steps to amend it if needed? If we feel that once we get the information that we don't have currently, that we don't agree with it, how is this plan amended?
I would think at the least you could bring another article before the select board that would be placed into the business of the next town meeting. There's probably other ways as well.
So also with policies and ordinances, a member of the community can contact the planning commission who sets those policies and ordinances and ask for a redefinition or a change in that policy.
Mr. Martin?
By chance, are any other towns is doing this, or are they voting on this? Do we have any information from anywhere else that you can share with the group?
Yes, we've looked specifically at the town of Georgia's plan. We've also looked at St. Albans City and various other, we've seen Winooski, and there was a lot of different information presented of different plans in different towns. And some is extremely complex and goes into so much depth, it's unbelievable. This one is just sort of a straightforward, simple plan, something to get us rolling, see how it works for the town of Highgate, but certainly could be modified.
So if we do vote on this, it can be modified.
Yes. Yes, all of your ordinances and policies can be changed.
Mr. Dupree?
And this is the head of our planning commission. Thank you for that.
I do have some copies here, very few, but sort of explains the process that we went. Like Sharon said, we did look at a lot of policies from different towns in the area. And it's basically, as mentioned by Richard and a few others, to help entice a business to come into the town by lowering their taxes for the first few years, or an existing business that wants to do some major improvements to their business or increase hiring. So the increase in their value gets taxed at a lower amount for the first few years, and then within 5 years. But I do have a few copies if anybody wants to look to see what it's about. Hopefully you support it. I know there's some confusion.
Keith?
So I've been seeing these shirts around here that says from the past to the future. This town, we don't have commercials. That's what kills us. We have to have more commercials. If we don't, we're always going to keep putting the burden on the back of the taxpayer, the homeowners, and everybody else. And we really need to move forward. And I agree with Mr. Noel. We just need to move into the future. We're losing people out of the state. And we just need to bring jobs in. In this town, we really need to have the incentive to bring jobs into this town. You know, God bless the dairies, but we all know the burden that is on that industry.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Ringo?
So I guess, what is business constituted of? Is it just commercial or is this agriculture too?
In the fine print of this policy, it says this policy, even though the state law says that agricultural and forest land is, have the ability to enter into this contract, there's a note in this policy that says, policy does not address agricultural and forest land since the state of Vermont current use program addresses tax relief for these entities.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Was there an informational meeting on this prior to town meeting?
There were several planning commission meetings that tax liabilization was on their agenda. And then it was on our agenda for a select board meeting as well.
Any other questions? Ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Article 7. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize the elimination of the offices of trustee of funds with future tasks to be absorbed by the office of the town treasurer or directed by the select board? We have a motion. We have a second, Mr. Rouse. Discussion. Mr. Ringville.
Do you have an explanation?
Question is, can we have an explanation?
Do we have a member of the trustees of trust funds?
I thought they both were here, but I can briefly speak as to where are the volunteers to do the job. There's your short answer, Henry.
You got one right here.
Is Clarence or Evangeline? Evangeline, do you want to step up and say a few words about it?
Clarence is prepared, I believe.
Okay.
Clarence, you're on the spot.
You're not giving your list.
I'm like volunteering, Clarence.
Well, Evangeline and I have discussed this along with our former member. We felt that it would be best for the town if this was done by the treasurer. It would be done in a more prudent and just way. Not that it was unjust in the first place, but it was also a good policy to take it out and put it where the money belongs, control of the money where it belongs. Volunteers are running thin. I don't see many people volunteer anymore. So we thought maybe it would be a good policy to put it on the treasurer's hands and go from there. It's up to the voters.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Shelley, what did the auditors say about that?
This has actually been a recommendation of the auditors for every year since I've had an external audit, since I've been here. I first brought it to Lynn probably 3 years ago and said, you know, I'm certainly not going to take this job away from you. I have enough of my own to do. But when the time is right, when you guys are ready to be done, it is something that they would like to see become part of the town, be part of the external audit, and be overlooked as far as all the other money in the town goes as well. So I don't know that it would create a ton of extra work for me. And I do have the support of Clarence, Lynn, John Furland, and other past trustees to help me through, as well as guidance from our auditors who have already given me some kind of first steps if this passes today.
Any other questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes, have it.
Thank you both. Thank you both for your service.
Yes.
Article 8, shall the voters of the town of Highgate authorize a one-time, 4-year term for the office of town clerk in 2022 in an effort to stagger the terms of the town clerk and town treasurer. We have a motion, please. Second. Discussion. Anybody have any questions? We'll go to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Article 9. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate strongly support the completion of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail and urge the governor and legislature to jointly develop a plan that will ensure the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail is completed by 2025. We have a motion. So moved. Second. Discussion? Tying it back.
I know the governor put money in his budget for this completion, but I would agree that because legislation can move money in the budget, this letter of support may help. Our legislators know that Highgate as a town are in support of the trail.
Where did this article come from?
The town was approached to ask if we would be in support of producing an article and producing a solid support. We've looked at different development that's around the rail trail, and we feel that there's opportunity for Highgate in that area, that it could bring in tourism and could give us an opportunity for some more economic growth.
Mr. Rosenberg.
We do have a representative, Bass, if he's sitting over there, Ken Brown, if he wants to speak toward it.
Are you from Highgate?
I do not live in the town of Highgate. I just came to answer questions about this.
Make a motion to allow Ken Brown to speak.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it's basically been covered already. This letter came from the Friends group to the rail trail prior to the governor making that announcement about funding. So the wording was based on a Friends group trying to get funding to finish the trail. With the funding having been proposed, the wording of the letter still works for the town to voice their support to keep that in the budget. So it's currently proposed in the state budget. They haven't made it through and actually happen. They need to hear support from voters. If it is passed, then the section in town here, especially connecting the village to Swanton, could be constructed as soon as this coming summer, because we had planned to build it before and it only wasn't built because of lack of funding. So it's all planned and ready to go, and they could work on it very quickly.
What happened to the money that was allocated twice that I know of for this project?
So the original funding for the rail trail came in 2006 with federal support, and the Vermont Association of Snow Travelers had matching funds for that. The project was held up for 10 years by Act 250, and by the time we were able to get building, everything was more expensive than expected. And the money ran out for the first two construction projects. Then we planned the project here, but the funding for it was never actually in place, and we got to get it in time.
Any other questions?
Is there a dollar amount there? Sorry.
The question was asked, is there a dollar amount for this article? The answer was no.
No, it's just to offer our support in favor of the completion.
Any other questions? We're going to vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Article 10. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $375,000 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the capital improvement plan with an estimated $375,000 to be raised by taxes? We have a motion, please. Second. Mr. Shepherd. Discussion. Mr. Noel in the back, please.
I presently support this article, but you better realize we can't do this forever. You're shorting some of your funds in your equipment account, and it's going to happen. You hit the wall. Last year, you did that truck, you didn't have enough money in it. Well, the truck's not that important. Well, I disagree with everybody that says that. We had a fire on the door. One fire truck went down, 3 others sat on top of the hill until the town truck came and seen it. So who's the emergency vehicle, and who's the one that has to be there first? If it isn't plowed out, you won't get your ambulance in there, you won't get your fire truck in there, you won't get your school bus in there. They're more valuable than you think as snow pushers. I think we've got to keep them updated. In today's world with these machines, there's a lot of computerization. Town of Franklin, for example, last year, boom, down on the same day. The town of Highgate, Sheldon, and Berkshire plowed them out. Today, if you try to keep this truck 30 years, 20 years, it isn't gonna work, I'm sorry. Computerization, the wiring, it's just not functional to be able to keep that many years without problems. You don't want your emergency vehicle or your tow truck with problems going down when you need it. It'll never go down when you don't need it.
Any other questions?
So to speak to Richard, we did order a new fire truck. We did get the grant for the extra 50,000. And the town can be very grateful for the fire department, who gave over $16,000 from their fundraising account to make up the balance that would cover that truck. That truck has been paid for, and we received a $6,000 credit for discount on that truck. It's to be delivered in 2021. There was a 465-day time delay to produce that truck. So that is on its way. We are currently, if this capital improvement plan passes with the appropriation for the truck one of the highway department, that truck will be able to be replaced in the next year. And we do have had several meetings to discuss that truck. So that would give you a new truck as a highway truck for the coming year.
Mr. Rouse in the back, please. Oh, sorry, Henry. Henry, are you all set?
I would like them to go over the complete capital improvement.
Okay.
By line so that we can understand.
Want that now?
We can do that now. Luke, do you want to do it, or would you like me to do it?
Coming back to you, Dave. Coming back to you.
Okay.
Just shout it out, Luke.
Okay. So, I guess we'll start with, we had nothing for our town offices.
We'll try this one. So Parks and Rec Department, the Zamboni, we decided to add $5,000 for the eventual replacement of the Zamboni. And the indoor turf, which we got a few years ago, I guess is in the process of it'll need to be replaced. The projected cost of like $75,000. So we're putting $15,000 towards that. For a total in the Parks and Recs Department of $20,000. The Highgate Public Library for a future new library, we are asking for another $25,000 towards the eventual construction of the library to add to our capital reserve that we already have on it. The Highgate Volunteer Fire Department, as was mentioned, a new truck is on the way. And eventually, fire engine number 2 will eventually have to be replaced, and we decided that we might as well start putting money aside towards that purchase. So we decided on $25,000 for this year. The Public Works or Highway Department, it's when it usually starts getting really sticky because there's a lot of big ticket items in here and what to fund. We have a replacement. We need to replace the road mower. We've already got $32,667 in a reserve fund, and we'd like to add another $20,000 with the hopes that it'll be enough to purchase a new tractor. The grader is up there in age and will eventually need to be replaced. We've already got $50,000 in reserve, and we'd like to add another $30,000 to it. Our loader, we've added $25,000 for eventual replacement. The backhoe, we've added $10,000 for its eventual replacement. And the 2000 International tandem truck, we've already got $120,000 in reserve, and we're asking for another $60,000 with the hopes of completing the purchase this coming year. The 2014 Western Star tandem truck, we've already got $25,000 in reserve, and we're asking for another $25,000 to build towards that eventual replacement. Our compact dump truck, if I'm right, is the, I think the 10.5 truck or something like that. It will need an eventual replacement, and we've asked for $10,000 towards that. The single axle plow truck, we're asking for $25,000 towards its eventual replacement. So the highway department, Public Works, we get a total budget of $205,000. Then around the town, if our land would just stand still and not move around, we'd have some extra money. The transfer station slope stabilization project, which who knows exactly what it's going to cost. We've asked for $50,000 towards that, to the $92,000 that we have already. And the Macy Road slide, we've got $233,500 already in reserve. We're asking for another $50,000. Select board can probably explain those projects better. For a total of $100,000 for town capital projects. And a total of $375,000 is what we got budgeted for the major expenses in the town. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Rader?
So, there was no talk about the flooring, and there was no talk about the excavator and equipment trailer and site article.
Correct, those are zero balances.
So why are they there?
That showed what you spent last year.
Or they will eventually need to be, like the flooring, at some point, you're gonna need to start putting aside, so it will be a capital project at some point.
Okay. So, excavator and equipment trailer?
Those are on our wish list, but we have not begun to save for them. We felt that it was prudent to keep our capital reserve, or capital improvement plan. We wanted to be fiscally responsible. We understand that people took a great hit with their taxes this year due to the school situation. We didn't have any control over that. So we felt it would be responsible to make sure we did our part. And we tried to keep the budget the best we could. And having the difference of .003 we thought was pretty damn good while still protecting and serving our town.
Mr. Rouse.
If we were to go into a lease program on trucks and equipment, would there be any grants still available for that, or would we lose all our grants towards the equipment?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to find out.
We might be better off just to go and start leasing this every 10 years, rotate out every 10 years, have a cycle on it.
We have discussed doing some rental agreements, some lease agreements, some pardoning out services to outside contractors. So we have had some discussions around that. But at this point, we felt, and we have always felt, that the public work does a damn good job. And at this point, we're not ready to change that.
Mr. Noel in the back, please.
Mr. Rouse brought up a good point, and I agree with the board that we have to look into it. It's something we should be looking into, and it may solve some problems. Because there's a cost, you may buy the truck every 9 years, but you factor it out, divide it by 9, what does it cost you per year? A lease is very possible, it may not cost you any more, it covers 100% of the warranty, and that may be the route to go, but again, it hasn't been investigated, but it is a tool that should be looked into.
Do you have any other questions? Mr. Green.
The only heartache I get a little bit on the excavator is, one, I think we've been told several times, and I've seen it, I guess with my own eyes, that we have a public works department that is maxed out. So in my opinion, I wouldn't have any problem with hiring out excavation work for the little that it entails. For the reason of, when you do it within your own department, all of a sudden you don't have anybody to flag, you don't have anybody to run the trucks. So why not help yourself? I do it in my own business where I sub out some of the stuff that I can't do. And for a piece of equipment of that much value to be sitting, I'm going to say 10 months of the year. I just hope you look at that aspect of it, I guess.
And yeah. And I agree, Henry, and while we have gone out and our guys were, last summer, Mill Hill, our guys went out and we had somebody come in and we subcontracted and we're talking with Butch. That was a great thing, you know, so it's not a bad.
Any other questions?
Might pass my 3.
One more, Henry.
So again, I'm going to go back to road shoulders, mowing, and I'm not belittling our highway department at all. But I think we need to give them the tools to do that. I think it's something that's, if you look around between the brush that's growing up on the side of these roads, it's much costlier to maintain a bunch of brush than it is a bunch of grass. And I think if we were very proactive on mowing our roadside and taking the shoulders off, we would save ourselves some money on pavement, and we would save ourselves some money on trying to take care of the brush when that time's done. And I think if we as a town or a board were to talk to a lot of these landowners where you can go on the other side and be on their land to mow the ditch that we as a town need to maintain, I think we would be solving ourselves a lot of problems.
So, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. Butch, Would you like to address that, or would you like your road commissioner to do it?
As the roadside mowing, that's what the new tractor, when we were saving that new tractor, so we can reach out and cut the brush. Our time is pretty limited. The last 2 years have been anyway, so we haven't been getting it done. And as far as the high shoulder issues, that's been an issue. I've been here for 18 years, and Henry was a select board member 18 years ago, and it was a problem then. We tried to get it fixed, and nothing was done then, and we're gaining on it, but there's only 3 of us.
So it goes back to the question of a simple thing like an excavator, where you're better off to hire somebody else to help rather than get a piece of equipment that we don't have the time to run.
And I will say the town has, last year the voters set aside additional money for extra crew time. We have had a very difficult time finding someone who wants to, frankly, work for us. It's difficult to find someone who has the experience, and it's difficult to find someone who's willing to take a job that basically would be part-time.
Butch?
We have discussed with the select members that, we need to hire someone to sell. And I agree with Henry on the excavator and the trailer. That was just something that we looked at, would it help us? As the select members had told you that they put it aside for now because we can't afford it. Not that we don't need it, but the labor and the money is something that they put on the back burner for now until we have either to hire a bigger crew or they decided that we would hire it out.
Mr. Rouse?
I'd like to give Henry my remaining 2 questions because I don't need them anymore.
I support the highway department fully, I think we need to manage it in a different fashion. Again, I'm not blaming them at all for any of this. I'm not blaming anybody really, it's just the nature of the bear.
Any other questions? Ty?
So, looking at the roadside mower, doing quick math, this passes will have 52,667, estimated cost 67,000, about $13,000 short on that. Where's that 13,000 going to come from? And just address that it's a big issue. If we don't know where it's going to come from, I think we need to move some money around in the highway department to make sure we get that this year.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about the mower?
Yes.
Correct. Is there an answer to my question?
Was there monies to move around? Was your question, was there monies to move around to get that bought this year?
Yeah, where's the...
Because of the shortfall?
Yeah, where's the money coming from? Shortfall.
Well, of course, estimated total is exactly that, an estimate. We have not gotten firm bids on that, and we haven't decided that we're going to put a new machine that you might be able to find a used one that suits your purposes more appropriately. So yes, we could move money if that's what the voters decide. That was the way we originally set the capital improvement up. And I will tell you that this puts the highway department back in a better position and pretty much catches us up to where we need to be going forward. on this equipment.
Mr. Yates?
So this new mower, and then at the bottom of that is the sidearm for that mower. So what are we gonna use that tractor for to mow with if we don't have the arm to reach out and mow? I mean, should we be amending this and adding that 40,000 in right now so that when we purchase this tractor, it's set up to mow everything?
So that would be a decision for the voters. But the tractor and road mower is able to mow, it just, the sidearm, correct me if I'm incorrect, but would allow you to go deeper and further into the ditches to clean them out. Yeah, and the brush.
I also want to bring something up, something that Henry's talking about. There is board members up here that we talked about going out to bid and have somebody do our roadsides. And sometimes we think that would be a lot cheaper. I know there's a couple of us up here with help and everything and all the projects and roads that gotta be paved. My feeling is, I think we need to go out to bid and have it done by somebody else.
There was some talk, just to follow up, I agree with you, Richard, but there was some talk when we thought about it years ago of bringing plants that weren't in town, into town, when these contracted mowers come in. The wild parsnip, all of those plants have the possibility to come in on these other machines, and that's why we didn't pursue having someone else mow our roadsides.
Yeah, and I think with everything, I think when they come in, if they come in, I think they need to be washed off before they come to Highgate. I don't think it's a big thing where, that's, we got, other things that I think would come into town before that, so.
Well, Mr. Ringle, you were given 2 extra questions, so go ahead.
We have numbers for that. We make an educated decision.
It kind of got shuffled under the table at a meeting, but it's going to come back up, because I do feel that, because it's either that or we've got to put a 4th man on. It's getting to, how's your feeling about that, Henry?
Personally, I think you sum out the things that you need to sum out. The big things.
Yeah.
Myself, I think, without doing the numbers again, I think we should own a tractor with a mower. I'm not saying that if you had numbers to tell me what it would be to sum it out, I would have a better opinion on which direction to go. But I firmly believe that if we were to mow a roadside in a much farther fashion than we are now, then we would solve ourselves a lot of problems down the road. We wouldn't need a sidearm in a lot of places. But what we do need, to me, I would rent that out. I would sub that out. Every 3 years or every 5 years. But if you maintain grass, pretty cheap to do. But you can't do that everywhere. We used to have towns that did that for us.
I was just going to say that, you didn't have to, but there's not many that passed it, so.
Any other questions, folks? You ready to vote? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 11, shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $817,129 to meet expenses and liabilities of the highway fund with an estimated $665,879 to be raised by taxes. Can we have a motion, please? Moved and seconded by Mr. Eads. Discussion? Do you have any questions, Mr. Rainbow?
What are you paying this year?
What's getting paid? What's getting paid?
So we know that we need and have been approved for the Gore Road. It's quarter mile. Okay, so they think it's a mile. We know we have to repave the frontage road where we've just put in the large culvert. And Butch, you want to speak to the rest of that?
Gore Road from Ashley Road to the north end of where the dirt road meets, that section. Finished the frontage road from the four corners to the new culvert that was installed last fall.
Could you use the mic, please? Butch? Thank you.
The Gore. How's that?
Forget it, just go for it, Butch.
Okay.
Speak up for us, please.
Gore Road.
Thank you.
From the Cassidy Road to the north end of the Tart Road, and the frontage road from the four corners, from Carter Hill Road back to where the new culvert was installed on the frontage road. And we have a short section on Maury Road, and we're going to look at a short section on the Macy Road, not where the slides are, but from the Maury Road to the Sheldon line, which is like a quarter of a mile. We still have the section on the Hannah Road from 78 to less than a mile. That was another section that was in our plans. And hopefully if there's a little bit left, we can do the Cassidy Road to the War Road. That was the section that's blocked off now, just a short section.
Mr. Rainbow?
Well, that's a lot more than one. So that's my question.
So Butch had also asked for an additional $25,000 of paving expenses in his budget, which is in the corrected version here.
Do you have any other questions? Mr. Yates?
So my question goes to crew wages. You guys do a heck of a job. You know, they're out there when most of us are still sound asleep, clearing the roads. I travel a lot of the roads right after they've been down them and go into other towns that their garages are still lights off. So I applaud them for that. But I just want to make sure that we're taking care of them as far as what did their insurance go up? And did we give them performance reviews to justify giving raises?
So we had met with the highway crew a couple of times. We had a new employee, Luke Schwinner, who also got his review for his time. We did give raises to the Public Works Department. It was asked that Luke get a larger increase than the others, and he was given that on the recommendation of Butch.
So the first part was the insurance part. Are the raises that we're giving them enough to cover that and then give them the raise? Because I know health insurance went up.
So their insurance went up 12%, roughly.
Any other questions? Ready to vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Article 12. Shall the voters of the town of Highgate appropriate $1,051,862 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the general fund with an estimated $449,804 to be raised by taxes? Do you have a motion, please? And a second? Discussion. Ty in the back.
So, I'm going to start off with, I'm trying to find it, public safety, I believe it's under. Not going to talk about the actual dollar amount, but pretty discouraging that both our contracted services for public safety did not send a report to be put in our annual report. I'd like to see some numbers from them on what we're getting for the dollar value that we're spending.
Mr. Ringbill?
On page 51, can you explain, under public safety again, police patrol services, why there's so much of a budget change?
So, the police patrol that we currently have contracted with the city of St. Albans, they had raised their rate per hour substantially. And we had talked about whether we wanted to stay in that direction, whether that was good for the town of Highgate. Unanimously, we felt that the city of St. Albans had done such a better job than the service we had prior to this, that we didn't feel that the sheriff department or some of the other departments that we had originally tried could come close to the effectiveness or the services that we were provided. Right.
Plus, there's a ticket revenue that we're making off that. Shelley, do you have it? I'm rough off your head, or where can I find that?
I can announce it at Thursday's meeting. I don't have it off the top of my head. It's about double already what it would have been.
So the ticket revenue almost makes up that difference.
Ty in the back.
I want to caution you on a ticket revenue because I don't know what the percentage is, but that ticket revenue is coming out of residents' pockets for having, especially if they're digging for stuff. You know, I've heard of cases where you get pulled over for speeding and then you get 4 or 5 more tickets on top of that, just because they're trying to come in and pull in the trash shop.
Well, we specifically had that conversation with Chief Taylor, and that's exactly the opposite of what they're trying to do. They're trying to be more community-oriented and more forgiving than what they could be. Yes, local residents have gotten tickets. Yes, they broke the law. Yes, all of us know that we're all gonna get caught because we all do things that we probably really shouldn't be doing.
Not all of us.
You know you're gonna get caught, right? Now that you said that. But what they offer us with the drug task force, with a canine unit, with the community involvement, with the community celebration, going into the schools, they have taken a more positive impact in our community. We want our children to know that if you have a problem, you can go to a police officer. We want them to feel safe. We want them to have the very best. We're achieving that goal little by little. And does anyone else want to speak to their service?
Every time, even if they're on duty or not, if we've had a complaint from a resident, we text them, we call them, and they respond, even if they're not on duty, and we don't get an extra bill for that. They don't take it out for patrol. They've been very good to us. Next time Chief Taylor comes, I recommend that you guys come and ask me questions, but it's such a positive thing all the way around. I wouldn't know why we wouldn't pass it.
In my opinion, we're starting to get what we're paying for, as opposed to our previous situation.
Mr. Yates?
There was an increase in hours as well, right? This isn't just an increase in their rate. I think that needs to be clarified.
Yes, that is absolutely true. We have increased the hours. As I said, we've been so pleased with their service, and we do feel that we're actually getting what we pay for. And even if that costs us a little more money, we think it's the best thing for our community.
Went from 24 hours to 30, right?
I don't think it's 30, is it? 26? Yeah.
Butch in the back.
We see them often, they're out there. If you're getting fines, you deserve it. They don't stop us for nothing. And there's a lot of aggressive drivers. At my point, they're not given enough tickets.
Thank you. Any other questions? You ready to vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 13, to transact any other business legally authorized to be transacted, considered proper and necessary when met. We have a motion. We have a second. What's on your mind? Mr. Noel in the back. Come back here.
This is Don. Unfortunately, I missed it. It goes back to a comment on the last year's town report that is incorrect. I don't know if this can be addressed.
So was a comment made, we're gonna have to, it's nothing I'm gonna be able to answer right now.
Yeah, so you'd like to amend the last year's town report?
Correct. Just insert one word, phrase it correct.
Wendy?
We'll probably have to contact the Secretary of State and ask that question.
Yeah, adding the word not.
Correct.
Yeah, we can do that.
We can.
Okay. So Wendy says
Just so
she's
the other
gonna take
people
care
know what
of
I'm
it.
talking about, page 14. About 2/3 of the way down. We're talking about, just above the word path. It was also noted that if the roads are plowed, it should be if the roads are not plowed. The fire trucks can't get there. I don't know what the procedure is. I was a little slow on the gun when it was brought up. I'm sorry. I'm getting older.
Sounds like your town clerk will be able to take care of that. Mr. Rouse?
And in the future,
Could you say that, please?
in the future, town reports, for the articles, can we also put what page we're gonna be looking for at the end of the article? So we don't sit here and flip through all the pages all the time?
No particular page, it depends on the question on the floor.
Well, whatever your article is, what page it goes to. Like for the budget's on page 52, that article reverted to page 52.
Well, Article 12 refers to about 10 pages.
Oh, that's, yeah. but your first page for that. So you're getting a general idea.
Come prepared.
The table of contents, David.
I think she said it was duly noted. Chris?
So I just want to come back to where we started this meeting with Mr. Noel. Just been a huge influence when I was serving this community, just a wealth of knowledge. His years on TAC, pushing that bridge through design after design after design, getting, property owners to come on board. That man was the man who got it done. He's working on other issues in town with state roads that people don't know about, that are big safety issues. I think we need to take, and I'm going to make a motion right now, that we dedicate the V52 or the V25 bridge, the Old Macy Bridge, to Richard Noel.
I would second that.
So the motion on the floor is to rename the East Highgate Bridge the Richard Noel Bridge. Dedicated bridge.
Dedicated, thank you. And what's ironic, the farm that I own was owned by J.B. Sanderson. And if you look at the other bridge, J.B. Sanderson was selected at the time. One down Highgate Falls.
So we have any more discussion on that? The motion is to dedicate the bridge to Richard Noel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Do we have anything else?
Time.
Okay, you're right there.
I've got two things to bring up to people. First thing is, we did a bake sale last year, Memorial Day weekend, and it's for the names in the park. We did over $400. We're planning on doing it again this year. Whatever was left over, they auction it off at the auction. I won't be here this year because I've got a granddaughter, but I've got people lined up for the bake sale. We need baked goods for Memorial Day weekend. Second thing is this public notice for the town of Highgate. This is the Village Court Master Plan. The meeting's on March 24th at 6 o'clock. Anybody has any questions, this meeting's very, very important to come. I have one more question. The third one, and Ty Swinyer can back me up on it. We did a Christmas thing with the Highgate Rec, and we had a great time, and we plan on doing that. But I hear from Ty Swinyer that we're planning on doing it again this year. He can probably fill you in, but it was a great time for an hour and a half. We went around, saw the Christmas lights. It was wonderful. I just want to bring this up so people know this is coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ty, would you speak on behalf of the Memorial Day Committee?
I'm sure that mic's gonna get pitched when it's all said and done.
Keith, you want to hear?
No, you're doing good, John.
So the Highgate Memorial Day Committee, along with Highgate Parks and Rec, are in the process of a Memorial Day, memorial upgrade. Our intent is to add 2 wing walls to the current monument. Our current monument ends at Vietnam War. We don't have anything for the First Persian Gulf War or the Iraq War or our war in Afghanistan. We want to bring it up to date. And we feel that's the way to do it, 2 wing walls. We're currently working with Camp Precast on getting those wing walls. We've got some talk of donations given to us for those. We want to add electrical upgrades to it so that the flag's lit from the monument, not from the street light. Also the plaques that are on the monument are lit. Replace the paver bricks, those have all been removed, the shrubs have been removed, with some stamped concrete, and replace the flagpole. Here that it's time, and I guess that's it.
So the Memorial Day Committee would like to ask for a $5,000 appropriation from the town. So they are asking for your vote to add $5,000 to their budget to help redo the monument.
So moved. We have a second? Second?
So that was in the general fund?
It's not in the general funds. We were going to do an article, but we were too late to make the vote.
Mr. Rainville,
So I'm all for this, but can we do this?
can we do this being in
It
the,
has been warned.
my limited understanding of what's going on is no. Because it wasn't warned. And I'm 100% for it too, don't get me wrong. Absolutely.
I honestly don't know the answer.
I think you could get a vote as far as, if we think we should, but I don't technically think it'd be a
You could
valid vote.
appropriate it.
Keith in the back, please.
If we were to run through some of the things throughout the year, we needed it for Shelley to save some money, we might, could we be able to take some of it from there? Because every year she saves us a little money we got somewhere. Just listen to those select board meetings. You'll find us the money.
This can be presented as an advisory vote.
Okay. So I would amend my motion to ask the voters of Highgate to approve $5,000 if it were available from the general fund.
Any other discussion?
Still spending money. Non-warned articles.
Can you do something and move this to a select board meeting to get appropriate information about what we're doing to make sure it's legal?
I think the general
Yes.
fund should have been adjusted. Should have been asked during the general fund conversation. And amended the article that.
You can't spend money that isn't warned.
Right. Okay, so I would table this motion then until we can get the correct information and the correct idea of where our funding would come from.
Any other questions? Ms. Miskey?
So I just want to tell everybody that I know Kyle had said when we first started that the fire department has smoke and seal alarms that we're giving out to members of the community. I don't think this is actually working. It is?
Yeah,
It's working? Okay. So this is a program that we've been doing for a few years where we started with the Red Cross giving out free smoke detectors to members of the community. And we're now working with FireSafe 802 to also put carbon monoxide detectors in every home. So one of the things that we discovered when we were out installing these in homes a few years ago is that people are not, we're so busy in our daily lives that we just forget about our smoke detectors, which are our first line of defense in keeping us safe and alerting us when there is a problem and getting us out of the house. Because during a home fire, you actually only have 2 minutes to escape. So smoke detectors are your first line of defense. And every 10 years, smoke detectors only have a 10-year life. Every smoke detector has a date on the back, which I tell kids is the date that your smoke detector was born. So on its 10th birthday, you gotta get rid of it and you've gotta get a new one. Carbon monoxide detectors have to be replaced every 5 to 7 years because of the sensor that's in them. So these we have for free. If you are properly protected at home, you need to have a smoke detector on every level, in every bedroom, and in the main living area, CO on every level of your home. If you don't have that and you need them, or you know somebody who does, give us a call at the fire department and we can get them for you, free of charge. We just want to make sure that you guys are safe. I know in the state of Vermont in the past year, we have had a fatal fire, and there have been some in surrounding states where they're discovering that lives were lost because they did not have working smoke detectors. They may have had them, but they took the batteries out, they were old, they weren't working, and if they had just had that, those lives could have been saved. So please reach out to us. These are free, and we just want to make sure that you guys are safe. And if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, yes, we're home in bed sleeping, but if your carbon monoxide detector or your alarm is going off, please call us. Don't say, oh, I'll wait until the morning, it'll be okay. Because we would rather come out at 2 o'clock in the morning and make sure that, well, the batteries are dead or you just need a new alarm, than to have something tragic happen. So please reach out to the fire department. These are available to you. We also have we do car seat installs now, so if you know anyone who needs their car seats checked, please reach out to us. We just want to make sure that our community is safe.
Thank you. Yes, sir. If you want to stand up and speak loud, don't worry about the mic. It works and then it doesn't.
So I'd like to speak on behalf of the Highgate Rec Department, Parks and Rec, sorry. We have a table over there set up. The employee that we didn't have last year, Dan Borgard, is our rec director. He loves to talk with people, so please talk his ear off. We have surveys. We find a lot of times that we tend to serve the younger population. There's the not so younger population here. We have surveys. We would love to see what you guys are looking for to do. Bus trips somewhere. People like casinos. We just need more ideas from this population. We don't get a lot of participation at our meetings that we have twice a month. First and third Mondays, if you're wondering. So please go over there, fill out a survey, check out what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
I just want to thank the Highgate Facilities Maintenance team for what they did here today to make everything possible and clean and safe. So thank you very much, guys.
Anyone else have anything else before we adjourn? Ty.
I have a question on NATO property trustees. And what the process, are they still in place? And is that something that should be talked about today?
So, Chris, are you on that trustee? No. Clarence? Yeah. So Clarence, you and Lisa Wilkins are on that, and then David passed away, of course. So do you need to have a third person? And so do you have someone in mind?
I assume there should be 3 people because that's the way it originally started out. I would hope that it can get to be 3. I also like to know what my assignments are.
Mr. Rouse in the back, do you have something?
Yeah, I don't want that microphone. I just want to bring up that every year we have problems with the PA system, so if it's a town PA system, let's buy a new one.
Well, funny story. We have a new one.
Bring it back.
But unfortunately, one of our selectmen was not feeling terribly well this morning and wasn't sure he was actually gonna make it. So Randy normally sets up our system, and we found out that Randy needs to train some of us to do it in case he can't be here. But yeah, and Scott Martin was gracious enough to let us use the school equipment. So it was kind of an emergency situation we got ourselves into this week, or this day. And I'd like to say something else too. I feel very blessed to be in this community. All I've heard today are positive things, good things. There's enough crap on TV and in the newspapers to fill a lifetime. It's nice to be in a place where good things happen. For example, Clarence Miller, I don't know if you know this, but he was honored this year with an honor flight to Washington, D.C. for his service in the military. Clarence, we owe you a debt of gratitude.
Give us a speech, Clarence.
Also,
Okay.
back in the corner, Christine DePady over there. She was nationally recognized. She was given the Presidential Award in Science and Mathematics. That's pretty fabulous. 1 in 4 teachers in Vermont were a part of that award, and she should be honored as well for being the wonderful teacher.
I know she doesn't want to give a speech.
And we have Liza Kaminsky, who won a state award for the child seat safety. And we thank you for your service to our community and looking after our children. As always, our Public Works Department does a fantastic job. Butch, we're very grateful for you. You keep us safe. You keep us protected. We don't give you enough credit. But for you and your crew, thank you very much. That also goes for our fire department. When nobody else wants to go, they go. They protect us, they keep us safe. We don't give them enough credit either. Those people put their lives on the line to make sure you and your property are safe. Thank you. And to the 3 ladies in the office, we couldn't do it without you. Wendy, our town clerk, Shelley, our town treasurer, and Heidi as our town administrator. And Josh, you're leaving us now. But we want to thank you for your years of service and for helping Butch and the crew as a road commissioner. Thank you very much for your service. And the last thing I'll say is, if you have a chance, stop into McEwen's. McEwen's has been going in our town for 100 years. That is fantastic. We talk about commercial development, we talk about bringing people into town. Stop at your local McEwen's, because they've been here for us for 100 years. And they deserve our respect and our thanks.
We have anything else? Motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much.